last year's game against TCU was kind of that coming out party for Austin Allen. As a quarterback, Gary, what do you see in Austin Allen?
A lot like his brother. When Brandon was there, a kind of a gym rat, somewhat of a guy who's maybe, I've always said if I had one skill that I would look for in a quarterback, it would be toughness. And he showed that last year. What I hope for him this year is he doesn't have to show it as much. That would be nice if he just shows it a couple times this year. That gets a little bit old. Senior quarterbacks who have experience, usually fifth-year senior quarterbacks have great seasons. If he's able to improve, cut out a few of those things where he was trying to throw from behind and get a few less turnovers, he could have really less stats and win more games. That would be good news for Arkansas.
And then the switch to the 3-4 defense, that's been a big topic of conversation around here. A lot of it that they said, maybe it stemmed from that game against TCU, giving up so many yards.
Yeah.
What's kind of the feel for that, playing a 3-4 defense now for Arkansas?
I think their personnel fits it a little bit better. I think going to Coach Rhodes, the fact that, he's instilled some new things in the defense. With that setup, I think they can play in space a little better, tackle better in space. I think just the fact that Sosa Agim is, he's great at that spot, and he might not have been as good in a four-man front. I think you can just do more in a 3-4, right? And there's other teams that say the opposite, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny. I bet that 80% of the audience out there has been talking about the 3-4. Couldn't probably draw up a 3-4 if they had to, but it is. When you get into the nooks and crannies of football, there are a few more things maybe for an Arkansas team to recruit to, players available, a little bit more covering the space of the modern offenses that they're facing. I do believe, though, at the end, it's still going to come down to the basics and fundamentals that have, turned these games. The difference between, as Arkansas fans have seen, between a 9 or a 10 win season, or a 6 or 7 or 2 or 3 offsides, a drop pass here, a penalty there. I know that, the X's and O's are important, but I think some of the fundamentals ultimately will be what determines this. Will they make the clutch play? Will they make the field goal? Will they cover the kickoff return? It'll probably come down to the same things as one of the legends of Arkansas has always said, Frank Broyles. It's what you do fundamentally that wins the games, game in and game out.
Yeah. Well, Brad, you mentioned you guys have talked to Brad a couple times in the offseason recently leading up to this game as well. Where among coaches does he rank, maybe personality-wise, for you?
Oh, personality-wise, he's in the top 5. If you ask me,
right?
He might be in the top 2. I don't know.
Right.
He's
one of the leading guys that could have his own talk show.
Absolutely.
Well,
he's got his own reality.
I know. I mean, he really.
Now his father knows best. I think. Now he's got Briella. I don't know. He's the one guy that will not BS us when we go into a meeting. And there are a whole bunch of them that either don't talk much or don't tell you anything, or what they tell you is almost the exact opposite of what they're going to do. I mean, that's just the coaching. They're paranoid. As a fraternity, they're the most paranoid people in the world. And football coaches are worse than basketball coaches, because basketball coaches at least let you come to the shoot around and you can kind of see for yourself. Now, we get to go to practice, I understand that, but that's just, walkthrough type practices. A lot of people don't even want you to come to practice after that first 15 minutes. Brett doesn't care. It's like, hey, here's what we got. We either going to execute it or we're not. Here's what we're going to do. He tells you everything. On the sideline of practice on Thursday, he probably told us more than he did in the meetings that we had leading up to the game, and that was perfect. I mean, that's just the way he is.
I always look at how a guy makes his decisions. Brett could have stayed at Wisconsin, kind of run it out, making $3.5 million a year, cashed it in, winning 9 or 10 games, gone to the Cap One Bowl, and been happy the rest of his life and been a hero. But he wanted the challenge coming into the SEC. The other conference have their great teams, but there's no conference that has 7 fan bases that all believe their team should challenge for the national championship. He knew what he was walking in here to. I accepted the challenge, and I really believe, I know it's tough to see sometimes, but boy, he's a shade away, not from winning a championship every year, but I think competing and contending with whoever he plays. A shade away.
Great. Well, really appreciate the time, guys.
You got it.
Thanks.